What's up, Ada Nation? Welcome to the Xerberus Project Catalyst Marathon. I'm your host here, Fareed from Dapp Central. I'm also joined by one of the founders from Xerberus, Simon Peters. Simon, how are you?
I am very good, and I'm quite excited for this space. I think Catalyst is one of the great institutions we have in Cardano, and we are pretty honored to have this space with you and to look at a few projects that are really outstanding today.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to host. We've collaborated before, and I look forward to continuing to collaborate with you moving forward. All right, let's go ahead and just jump right on in here. We want to be respectful of everybody's time. We've got quite the lineup here. So we want to just give everybody a brief opportunity to just come on stage, show their faces, give you, the viewer, an opportunity to see who we're going to be hearing from. And then we're going to dive into 10-minute sessions with every member represented today. So we've got our first member here, or our first proposee for Catalyst, who's 𝗵cie from Harmonic Labs. 𝗵cie, welcome aboard. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm fine. How are you guys?
Doing good. Doing good. Thanks for joining us. We've also got Greg Schneider, the COO representing 𝗵𝗀𝗯𝘀. Greg, welcome aboard. How are you?
Hey, guys. Yeah, excited to be here.
Solid. Thank you. We've also got Dr. Lars Brunjes representing the official 𝗁cie𝗂𝗲𝗀 team. Welcome aboard, Doctor.
Thank you very much. I'm also happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. And we've also got 𝗁𝗁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 or Nuvola or Nuvola team. Raul, welcome aboard, man.
How's it going, everyone? It's a pleasure to be here today.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, we do have a few other members that we are waiting on. We've got 𝗵cie𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, who's from the Fluid Tokens team. He is backstage. He's working through some camera issues right now. We're also expecting representatives from the minswap team, as well as the BigQuery and the Wolfram Alpha team as well. Actually, I see Adrian from minswap tuning into the background now. So that said, you guys will be hearing and seeing more of these gentlemen here. I'm going to go ahead and bring them downstage. We're going to kick things off here with a 10-minute review of 𝗵𝗫𝐿e's proposal, which is dealing with SIP number 113. And then we'll move over into minswap, followed by 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, 𝗁𝗁𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, as well as Nuvola. So again, gentlemen, thank you all for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and bring everybody down, and we're going to go ahead and grill 𝗵𝗫𝐿e here for a little bit, and then we'll jump over to the next members. Thanks again. All right, 𝗵𝗫𝐿e, if you want to give us maybe a brief introduction about yourself, Harmonic Labs, and then you've got a interesting proposal dealing with SIP number 113. So I know you're a more technically minded person. You probably have to dumb things down and simplify it for the plebs like me out there. But again, give us your introduction, and we'd love to hear a little bit more about your proposal. And while you're speaking, I'm actually going to pull up the proposal here to share with the community.
Sure. So, I'm 𝗵𝗫𝐿eꞌ, founded Harmonic Laboratories. And we in Cardano essentially we take care mostly of the tooling and infrastructure, and we have maintaining some tooling such as Proteus, which is TypeScript framework to write smart contract in TypeScript and also to create transaction in TypeScript. Among other projects, such as we are also working on an alternative Cardano node, also in TypeScript eventually one day, to have light nodes directly in your browser to enhance the security and decentralization of the decentralized applications that you guys are using. And so in general, we take care of tooling and infrastructure. And in some cases, we also propose CIPs, such as in this case, to improve and propose standards on Cardano, so that may vary from improvement on the low-level aspects or proposing standards so that we have a common way to do stuff, and we can all use that standard to improve the ecosystem and use it as it better fits us.
Perfect. Thank you. And for anybody who wants to find out more about Harmonic Labs, I'll leave the links to their platform down below, but the official website is available at pluts.harmoniclabs.tech. Again, very technically focused here, but without developers who are knee deep on the ground, we wouldn't have a lot of these beautiful dApps you're building on Cardano. So back over to you, 𝗵𝗫𝐿eꞌ. Do you mind breaking down very simply what SIP number 113 is and exactly what you're looking to get out of this Project Catalyst proposal?
Yes. So CIP 113 initially was thought, like if you go look at the original pull request, it was titled 𝗫𝗫𝗀𝗀 tokens. And the goal of the standard is to implement the capabilities that tokens have on especially EVM ecosystem. That is programmability over transfer. That is, we are proposing a standard that is somewhat restricted to avoid some vulnerabilities that are known on the Ethereum side. So, but except for that, the main goal of the standard is to have essentially programmability over transfer. What does programmability over transfer means? Well, in order to understand it, we have to understand what is the difference with current Cardano native assets and assets on other chain. We call Cardano native assets native because on Cardano those assets are actually first-class citizens that are essentially equivalent to ADA, to Lovelace's on your UTXOs. So in your amount, the blockchain recognizes directly your native tokens, and that is why they are native. But this benefit of knowing what tokens are present on a given UTXO comes with the cost that we cannot impose restrictions or in general logic on how to transfer these tokens. Whereas if you go look at the Ethereum ecosystem, or well, Ethereum, but from Ethereum, then also other ecosystem which have essentially they took from Ethereum this style of creating tokens. On Ethereum and similar, the tokens are just essentially smart contracts. So the blockchain is not really aware that there is a token in your account. It is just aware of contracts, the blockchain itself. And then these contracts do respect a standard, which is the 𝗫𝗫𝗀𝗀. That is why you know them as 𝗫𝗫𝗀𝗀 assets, because 𝗫𝗫𝗀𝗀 is the standard that they have over Ethereum or similar environment to recognize a contract that handles tokens. So we happen to have contracts in Cardano, and we can propose a standard to achieve effectively the same functionalities of 𝗫𝗫𝗀𝗀 standard over there, but on Cardano. So CIP 113 essentially is the 𝗫𝗫𝗀𝗀 of Cardano. It would essentially introduce this new kind of assets that are not native, but in exchange you get the possibility as a developer to describe how you want to transfer tokens. So if you ever have followed as an example, the USDC debate, the main voice around USDC is that you need freezing you need freezing in order to implement USDC natively. Because Cardano assets are native, we cannot impose, that is the keyword, we cannot impose freezing. And in order to do so, we would have a contract. We would need a contract. That is why they can do it in other ecosystems. So with an equivalent of that standard in other ecosystem on Cardano, they essentially have no other excuse for technically not doing releasing USDC natively. But yes, of course, USDC is just an example. CIP 113 could be used also as an example to enforce royalties. So you could only swap or you can only sell an NFT to someone else if you also pay the royalties to the creator of the NFT collection, which in theory we already have on Cardano, but this is more like a nice thing that NFT marketplaces are implementing, and it is not enforced. So an NFT marketplace can definitely decide, and the blockchain doesn't prevent to not implement royalties. So if a developer wants to be really, really sure that when an NFT is sold on secondary market, it can specify that logic on the policy, essentially, of the 𝗁cie𝗸𝗶𝗴𝗯𝗀 token. And in that case, sending the asset requires you to send the royalty to the creator. And other example vary from real world assets, which we have also other guests talking about them later. So you could enforce sending a real world asset only when the asset has been sold effectively in the real world. So that is maybe something that is nice to have as a real world asset. Yeah, and so essentially we would have all the possibilities that are possible with ERC20 on Cardano. So native USDC, real world assets, and increased capabilities for tokens and NFTs, if appropriate, of course.
That was a really in-depth piece there. I want to turn it over to you, Simon, because I've got a lot of questions, but I know you're very technically minded as well. So if you want to take an opportunity to pose a question to 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀, again, I do want to be mindful of time. We've got about 3 minutes here for a question and a potential response about SIP number 113. Go ahead.
More of a comment myself. This is an incredible, powerful application, right? USDC is one of them. The idea that we can enforce royalties on NFTs, I think it's something that a lot of creators like, that could also fortify the marketplace to be a bit fairer, right? Because there's always the worry, I've seen that on Ethereum and Solana, that you have a race to the bottom at one point with marketplaces do not want to enforce royalties of NFTs. So that could give really an ensured existence to creators. So this is really, really powerful. The way of applications is endless that I can imagine. So this is really wonderful. I've just one other question to you. That's really just to make people even more willing to vote for you. Harmonic Labs have done incredible much for the ecosystem. Like here and there, you're on all of these Twitter spaces. Maybe give just one sentence to your background so that people understand what kind of how long you have been here, and that people can trust you that you're the right person to maybe design a SIP and have it funded.
Well, one sentence is kind of a little, but I'll try. As I said before, we manage a lot of projects that varies on every level of the blockchain. So from the low level, from contracts, from the Cardano node, up to the standards such as this. So trying to always improve and always add capabilities, functionalities, without sacrificing the core concept on which Cardano has been designed, such as determinism and security. So we try our best.
All right. I think that will bring us to just about time. So unless there's any parting words that you have for us, 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀, I've gone ahead and actually left the link to your proposal in the chat here for anybody who's interested, whether they're watching on YouTube or on Twitter, to dive in a little bit deeper into it. So again, we wish you the best of luck. And again, thank you for all the contributions that you've made here for the Cardano ecosystem.
Thank you for this marathon. This is absolutely awesome. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Again, take care. All right. Moving on, we've got the next set of guests here, which are the Fluid Tokens team, and we've got Adrian representing a minswap. Now, before we continue any further, again, if you guys are enjoying today's live stream, again, make sure to follow the Xerberus account if you're not already following them. Make sure to tweet this out, share this out, so we can get more people here to not only spread exposure to Cardano, but to all the builders here who are looking for funding as a part of funding round number 12. Without any further ado, we'll go ahead and bring up 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, one of the leads for Fluid Tokens. Welcome aboard, mate. Always good to see you. And then we've also got Adrian from minswap. Let me go ahead and bring up Adrian. Adrian, can you hear us?
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. It's my pleasure. Would you guys maybe just briefly introduce yourselves and then just dive straight into what you guys are proposing for funding round number 12?
All right, please, Adrian, start presenting yourself.
Okay. Thanks. So I'm Adrian. Online, I go by Purito General, and I've been in Cardano around for 3 years now. If you've been on Cardano Twitter, probably you've seen me. I do the growth part for minswap Labs, so everything around tokenomics, writing Medium articles, partnerships, and so on. And one of them is also doing the Catalyst proposals. So we had the idea to do one with 𝗵𝗪 and Fluid tokens.
Perfect. Matteo, I know you very well, but do you mind explaining yourself to the community?
Of course, yes, always a pleasure. I'm 𝗵𝗪 𝗀𝗀𝗀. I'm the CEO of Fluid Tokens. Probably people inside the Cardano ecosystem already know what we do. We build DeFi projects, so services that the community may enjoy. And of course, we also develop infrastructure and code that other projects may need inside the Cardano ecosystem and also inside the Bitcoin ecosystem. And yes, so today we are together with Adrian with the minswap team in general to explain our catalyst proposal that is about 𝗁cie𝗸𝗯𝗀, the same that Michele actually talked about, but applied into the minswap DEX. So Michele and me created the 𝗁cie𝗸𝗯𝗀 together. He did the first version. I suggested the newer version, the V2 now. And to use it, the protocols have to create more let's say some cases, because the standard requires a change in the code of smart contracts in order to support those tokens. And this is why we are here today. So we basically want to support these programmable tokens on minswap DEX. And to do that, we need to change the smart contract, or even better, to extend it a little bit in order to allow the people to also use those tokens here.
I've got a quick question on that end. Would this be open source, and could other DEXs also benefit from this catalyst proposal if funded?
Adrian, you wanna answer this?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm more on the business side, but yes, we are planning to do open source. And how we're working on this is Fluid Tokens is developing the smart contract, and then it will be a minswap product in the minswap UI. So everyone will be able to use this like minswap right now. We have two DEXs in the UI, the stable swap and the constant product. So we would just add the smart token one very seamlessly, but it's being coded by Matteo and the guys at Fluid Tokens.
Perfect. And I want to turn it over to Simon. I've got one last question here. In terms of time that it would take to implement this actual proposal, how long do you guys think that would take? Because I know you guys are working on minswap V2 as well. Would we see this in V1 and then also sort of rebuilt in V2? Or would this only be something that's implemented once V2 launches?
Well, I think V2 is really around the corner. It's, I think, less than a month away. So, and this will take longer. So it's very likely it will be together with, after V2, we will be enabling this. And so, yeah, you will have the minswap V2, minswap V1, stable swap, and the smart token DEX. The good thing that how we manage this is we have the auto routing algorithm. So basically, whenever you want to trade tokens, you'll be able to see very easily the best route in terms of price, and also what smart contract you are using for swapping certain tokens.
Perfect. I think I've done enough talking. Simon, over to you.
Yeah, from my side. So as you guys know, from just before, this token standard is quite powerful. It enables a lot of new features, a lot of new token designs, which I love. However, minswap is one of the largest DEXs on Cardano and one of the most successful projects. I think there might be some people in the community who might hesitate to vote for it because they ask, well, minswap, why should they be funded by Catalyst if this thing is going to benefit, minswap directly, and if it's part of the DEX? Adrian, how would you address that concern if somebody from the community kind of like feels like, oh, you guys make so much money, why shall Catalyst pay for that? Like, what's your answer to that concern?
Lovely question. Yeah. I mean, I would first dispute the assumption that we make a lot of money. It's not even that much if you calculate, because half of the batcher fee go to the DAO treasury, and it's just getting stacked there for about 6 months, and it has like maybe 1 million ADA. Then we also have our development costs, right, for maintaining and building minswap V2 and other tools. And yeah, this one is something, an additional product that we think will benefit Cardano very well. We are going to open source it. So everything that we fund through Catalyst, we will open source it. And yeah, given that it will be a new product that benefits Cardano as well. We think it's a good way to ask for Catalyst funding. I mean, we're a very experienced team that will deliver a high quality product like the stable swap or so on. So we think it's good for us as well to get funding and keep building, even if we've been around for a bit longer and we're established. Shouldn't mean that established companies like us cannot be asking for Catalyst.
Very good answer from my side. Fred.
No, I just want to make sure that we're mindful of time. We got about 4 minutes, so go ahead, Simon.
Okay, I have another question to Matteo. Maybe this is just, I mean, I love token designs, and I have a lot of ideas what kind of tokens you could design for that. We discussed in the interview just now USDC, USDT, and NFT applications. But what other tokens can we expect to be traded on minswap with this new design? Are there any specific things you're already thinking about, or you're looking forward that could come on the exchange, so just that the community can imagine all these things that could be enabled? So what would you build with this new thing, and what kind of tokens will we seen soon to be traded on minswap?
Yes, so there are definitely some important categories of tokens that can benefit the programmability, and probably the most hyped one in the recent times are the real-world assets tokenized into tokens, right? So you definitely need to be legally compliant. Some programmability, for example, there may be sometimes the need of having a KYC, so you need to prove that you are KYC, that the receiver is KYC, right? Or some other conditions that are determined by the law of the country where the assets resides or where the user resides. And this is a strong one because I'm working with the finance team to deliver on Cardano the real-world assets tokenizations. And you can definitely expect the DEX to support them, because as long as they are supported, people will want to buy, also for the ability to swap them, to use them in the DeFi in general. And if we have one of the biggest DEXs we have now that also support the standard, it's basically an endorsement of the standard. So people can start building, developers can start building using the standard safely, knowing that we won't change it anytime soon because it's already good. So this is, in my opinion, super important, and that can benefit in general Cardano, because the tokens now can be linked also to the real world, can have the stable coins, can have condition to spend, for example, the royalties, as ಮಿಖೇಲ್ was saying, etc.
Yeah, I just want to go against on that and just highlight that. So the combination of the first proposals that we saw in the minswap proposal will open the floodgates for real world assets, and they're really needed because, as you pointed out correctly, right, there's certain assets you're simply not allowed to issue if you don't have the control, right? This is why we have this issue, and I think this is a very, very powerful proposal in that combination. And as you said, it endorses builders to give them the confidence that they now can create these assets because they can be traded on minswap. I think it's a very, very powerful combination of two proposals, and I personally really hope that this one gets voted in, because I do want to see real world assets on Cardano being relevant and being on minswap.
All right. I think that will take us through our 10-minute session there, discussing different opportunities, right, or different implementations of SIP number 113, which we just heard about on the minswap DEX, arguably one of the fastest growing DEXs here in the ecosystem. So Adrian, Matteo, thank you both. And Matteo, before I let you go, just want to say congrats on branching out into the Bitcoin ecosystem. So you guys are working very diligently, and it's really beginning to pay off. So again, thank you all. Take care, gents. All right, let's see here. Next, we have Greg Schneider representing the 𝗵cie platform. Now, what's interesting about this one is that, if I'm not mistaken, this is not a traditional proposal in the sense that it's going through the community straight away. This is going to be one of the real world integrations or real world partner integrations, which has a cap of, I believe, 2 million ADA per proposal. So without any further ado, let's bring up Greg. How are you?
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me on. You're right, our proposal's in a slightly different category. So we're currently being evaluated by a select group of Cardano Emergo, Cardano Foundation, kind of a committee, and we actually have our due diligence call tomorrow, and they'll determine whether our proposal is realistic. And we have the necessary agreements in place, and if we make it through that round, then it turns over to a community vote like normal. So just a bit of context, and yes, there's a total fund of about 8 million ADA available, and each project can only ask for between 500 and 2 million. But enough about the structure of how this Catalyst proposal works, maybe a bit more about myself and the 𝗵𝗀 project. So I'm Greg Schneider, I'm the COO of 𝗵𝗀, been around since the white paper, which is about 3.5 years ago now. And for those who aren't familiar, we're looking to really crowd in investment into the affordable housing space with a particular focus on Africa and emerging markets. Now, one of the markets that's for a long time piqued our interest has been Kenya. It's Africa's third largest economy. And very recently, as of April of this year, they have introduced a 3% payroll tax, which is a tax obviously levied on everyone who earns a salary, and that is going to set up an affordable housing fund. So there's a massive focus from both at a government level and a lot of pressure at a government level to try and ensure that affordable housing is made more accessible. And that's where we as 𝗵𝗀 could add value through our rent-to-own approach and all the different technology we've built to manage this process. So near the end of last year, Frank Mwiti, who's the CEO of the Nairobi Securities Exchange, Africa's third largest stock exchange, and some of his partners from EY actually reached out to us, invited us over to run a workshop, which we did early this year, and to kind of take them through the possibilities of blockchain, tokenization of real-world assets, the power of Cardano. It was an exciting couple of days. Feels like a while ago, so it was 2 or 3 days that we were there. And after that, we kind of started discussing an opportunity of building a pilot offering for the Nairobi Securities Exchange to allow them to explore how blockchain could help them with tokenizing of real-world assets, creating tradable instruments, etc. Frank is quite a visionary, so he's very interested in embracing blockchain tech and seeing how that can, bring the Nairobi Securities Exchange kind of up to speed. And so we've been working on a proposal with him and knew that we were going to need to raise some funding to help get that over the line. As you can imagine, this is a bit of a gamble for him in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. They have shareholders, etc., that they need to report back to. So getting some support in being able to fund the development of that, especially since it's a pilot and a bit out there, would help a lot. And almost by chance, this Catalyst fund, the one focused on real-world integrations, launched. And we said, well, why don't we look at this Catalyst fund as a way to help fund the development of this product, this offering? I think what's exciting about it is the need for affordable housing in Kenya is estimated to be about $2.5 billion annually. So that's the kind of numbers we're talking about that instruments would need to be able to raise to enable this product or to enable the change. But it's also, we see for the Cardano ecosystem, a real, very tangible opportunity to showcase what our decentralized technology can do. I see all too often necessarily people questioning, well, what can Cardano do? It's a ghost chain. What's its real-world applications? We hear that time and time again. And I think the opportunity to be able to power one of Africa's largest stock exchanges would really showcase what we can do. We're obviously looking to build a solution that's not only about tokenizing affordable housing. That's where we will start because that's our focus. But we want to build something that allows us to tokenize other assets and have other products listed. And we're also hoping that this will act as a bit of a showcase where we can maybe approach other exchanges in other countries in emerging markets and say, look what we've been able to achieve in Kenya. Is this something that you would want to consider implementing? So while it might not be open source, that's a bit of a challenge for us to commit to at this early stage. We will try open source what we can from the code, definitely from the learnings, and most definitely try and pave the way for other assets to be tokenized in a similar way within kind of the Nairobi Securities Exchange, obviously, and hopefully other markets. And so finally, from our perspective, the exciting part about building a product like this is of course, time and time again, we run into the challenge of trying to raise funding for affordable housing. A lot of those challenges get tackled with blockchain. The transparency puts people's minds at ease. The fact that there's collateral through our token puts their minds at ease. The fact that they can see their transactions on chain is, of course, very valuable. But nothing gives somebody certainty like the regularity, certainty of a product being listed on your local stock market. I mean, we all saw what happened with Bitcoin when it finally became a registered product that people could purchase and know that they were remaining compliant. Well, being able to tokenize investments into affordable housing on a registered a stock exchange, I think is going to make many of the conversations that we've had a whole lot easier, because you don't need to trust a bunch of crazy blockchain Cardano guys. You can just trust the kind of government approved stock market. So I think that's a little bit of an overview of what we're trying to achieve, hopefully how we're trying to bring value to the broader Cardano ecosystem. But yeah, happy to leave some time for questions.
You go ahead, Simon.
I've not been so excited about an Africa project since the 𝗁cie project. I think if this would become true, it would be not only a milestone for Cardano, I think it would be a milestone for all of crypto. I am interested, Greg, if you could explain a bit closer how exactly this asset works. So it is it's basically an underbelly for the stock exchange. But how does the affordable housing come in? So I know it's also for tracking transaction. Is it now an asset that I can just sell like a bond or a credit that people can just buy to put money in, and then it produces a yield? Or is it more integrated with the Empower system? It is just pure curiosity. If it would be just a basis for a security exchange, that's already impressive. But I'm just curious about the integration with the affordable housing.
Yeah, so look, I think one of the things, first of all, it's going to be an underpinning of being able to offer a bond-like instrument, that is tokenized and placed on chain. Obviously, the exact details of the definite product that the Nairobi Securities Exchange needs is part of the process. I think in our first milestone, it's unpicking exactly what they want, and from them speaking to local funders like pension funds, etc. It's about us understanding the kinds of products they're comfortable investing in. So a little bit of that financial structuring is in part what we'd bring to the table, but mostly what they're the client kind of. So they're going to tell us what they want. What I think has really blown the minds of the people we ran the workshop with was it doesn't just have to be that. People who are familiar with Empower know we have Empower Pay, which is recorded payments on chain that's showing, that's building, payment records for people that have paid their payments regularly. That's allowed us to move funds, etc. So we kind of see this as an opportunity to not stop at just building a piece of tech that can tokenize assets, but in the affordable housing space to start to bring in a lot of that data. So you could imagine somebody who purchases one of these real world asset tokens, let's say, for example, that they manifest themselves as a bond, also being able to access how the payments are happening on a granular level, anonymized, but on a granular level based on the homes that are funded by them. It would be akin to you investing in a REIT and being able to actually see all the tenants in all the properties that REIT holds, how it's performing. Now, not seeing that Zara paid this month and H&M didn't, if we're talking about a German shopping center, but being able to see that 90% of payments were made, or this is the granular level. Think about the confidence you would have in that REIT and the ability you'd be able to dig into it and say, yeah, I'm quite confident that this is performing well. Now, we all know the big REITs that are listed, and we're confident that they run their businesses decently well, or maybe we're not. But when we're talking about affordable housing, imagine how much more confident you would be if you could not only invest in something that you knew was from a regulatory perspective was above board, but you could actually see that level of granular detail. So it's really about taking our Empower Pay tech and dashboard, squishing it, for lack of a better term, with a platform that allows for the tokenization of real world assets, and then saying, okay, investor, how interesting is this for you to invest in? Now, we understand that the data side of things is a bit bespoke to us. if somebody was going to go and tokenize, I don't know, a mobile phone tower network, let's hypothetically say, they may or may not be able to provide the same level of data. That would be on them, but it would at least allow them to offer that data and make that investment even more attractive. Maybe they can't, and that's fine. Maybe they can, and obviously that makes it all the more interesting.
I think that does bring us to about that 10-minute mark.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's completely okay. This is what this is meant to be, right? A platform for you to speak, obviously, very passionately about what you're proposing to not enhance only 𝗵, but the entire Cardano ecosystem and give more exposure to a brand new country. Again, I've had Greg on my channel. If you guys want to find out more about this proposal, make sure to check out that video. It was shot, I think, just a couple of days ago. So a lot of information, still relatively fresh, and he dives into the details of their proposal there as well. Greg, I think that'll do it here. We're going to go ahead and move the conversation on. Thank you for your time. All right. Next, we've got a man that needs no introduction. He is working very closely with IOG. He's also, I believe, the CTO for the Genius Yield protocol. Dr. 𝗵𝗯𝗀𝗀, welcome aboard. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm very well. Thank you.
Good. All right. So Genius Yield, a DEX here in the ecosystem, in order book style DEX. You guys have recently been integrated into SteelSwap, and you guys have gone on the mainnet. It's almost been 7 to 8 months now. It's crazy how quickly time flies. Now, you've also got some other priorities with IOG. Do you mind giving us a little bit of background about yourself? I think that you're obviously very well known, but then could you talk a little bit more about some of the proposals that the Genius Yield team has out? I see quite a few of them. You're more than welcome to focus on any of them specifically, or maybe speak broadly about all of them.
Right. So I'm Lars, and my background is in mathematics, and I always loved programming. So when I found out in 2016 that IOHK, that was called back then, did most of their software development in Haskell, I joined them. So I've been in the blockchain space now since almost 8 years, and started as a Haskell developer, and then slipped into education because that's always my passion, and I got the opportunity. So first it was like internal training courses, and then we expanded that to like teaching Haskell all over the world, including Ethiopia. And eventually, when smart contracts became available on Cardano, I did this Plutus Pioneer program, which was quite successful, to help people actually get started with the app development on Cardano. And so I have that role, Director of Education at IOG. But then I also co-founded the startup Genius Yield and CTO. And we built, our main product is the DEX, as you already mentioned, order book based. And I always find, I enjoy this double role because I always find in order to do my teaching well, I had to go really deep into Plutus to know how it works, and that of course helped me to like write software and smart contracts for Genius Yield. But on the other hand, also like the war stories and anecdotes and challenges faced, like building something real at Genius Yield, also helps to inform my teaching. So that's about me. And as far for our proposals, so I think the most relevant for this discussion, looking at the people that introduced their proposal before me, is our real-world asset proposal. But you said I could also talk about some of the others. So the one that's also close to my heart is Atlas. When we started at Genius Yield, there was basically just a PAB provided by IOG, which was like quite useless, to be frank. The smart contracts were one thing, but in order, they don't live in thin air, so you always need infrastructure to support them. So we basically had to do that ourselves. So we started writing like an off-chain framework to allow to query the blockchain, construct transactions, interact with the blockchain, and so on. And at some point, it became more and more rounded. And we obviously first just wrote it for our own purposes, but then we saw that it might also be useful for other people because it was not specific to our specific use case. So we open sourced that a while ago, and it's called Atlas. It's the Atlas framework. It's using Haskell. It's an off-chain, like a comprehensive off-chain framework for Cardano. And so I think, I mean, it's not only us that use it, and I've heard like nice things from other projects about it. So one of the proposals is about making that more feature complete. I mean, because I mean, obviously we had a specific use case in mind, so there are some things we didn't pay close attention to. So we want to, I mean, one of the proposals is to fund the further development of Atlas to keep it in sync with the newest developments in Plutus, and to make it feature complete, so that anything you can do on Cardano with the CLI, for example, or other off-chain tools, you can also do in Atlas. And I mean, I'm very proud of that, because I mean, I know 𝗁𝗁_Hodgkinson always said that even if Cardano fails, the contributions 𝗁𝗁_Ck, for example, has done to the blockchain space will outlast us. And somehow I feel the same with regards to Genies Yield and Atlas. So even if Genies Yield fails, I mean, Atlas is something that the whole community can use, and that's useful to build dApps and get started, so that people don't have to go through the same pain that we went through when we got started. So I'm very proud of that, and I would be happy if that got funded to help us develop it further. And for the real world asset proposal, I mean, we have heard something related to that already in this event. But our proposal is to like make it a bit more general, to provide a general framework to do this. So the like full life cycle of real world assets. I mean, it's a I mean, very attractive thing to have on Cardano, because it's like a win-win both for people that actually own the underlying securities. I mean, if I want to sell a house, for example, I mean, now it's very local, right? I mean, only people that drive past my house and see the sign in the yard know that I want to sell the house, basically. And if I was able to tokenize the house and sell it on Cardano, I would have much more opportunities to get in, I mean, funds, liquidity. But of course, it's also good for the buyer side if real world assets were available as tokens on the blockchain. If you look at the example of houses again, I mean, they're normally expensive, right? And if you tokenize something, you often are also able to split it. So you can like split one house into 100 pieces as tokens. So it's much easier for people to actually invest in, for example, the real estate market, if it was available as tokens. And there are other examples of securities as well, where normally, traditionally, the bar of entrance is very high, and only like people with a lot of money can actually afford investing in something like that. So it would be really great to have that. But of course, it's difficult. And it starts like with legal issues, because in order, for example, for this house example, I mean, the jurisdiction you are in, where the house stands in, must recognize or acknowledge that this token on the blockchain now represents ownership in this specific house. So, I mean, the first thing one would need to do is like sort out the legality and build a legal framework that allows to actually tokenize or represent ownership of real world assets on the blockchain. And I think there is no general solution for that, because it's really depends on the jurisdiction, which country you're in, and also of the kind of security we're talking about. I mean, houses are different than cars, which are different to like equity or bond or loans or commodities like gold or diamonds. So that's one thing. You need this legal framework to tie the real world to things on the blockchain. And the second thing is, I mean, if we come back to the house again, somebody must verify that you actually own this house and maybe estimate its value. And with other securities, it's the same thing. There are certain experts that need to like look at the property or the commodity or the security and evaluate it or certify that it fulfills certain properties. So that's like the second part. And once you have done that, the legal framework and like getting all the certifications and estimates and whatever you need, then you are in a position to actually tokenize it and put it on the blockchain. And then, of course, you want to be able to trade it. And as Michele right in the beginning pointed out, right now that's not easy on Cardano because of this thing that we have native tokens. So there are no restrictions about transferring them. But when it comes to securities, there are all sorts of rules and regulations in place suddenly. I mean, not everybody can own property everywhere in the world, right? I mean, there are laws that regulate who can own property in a given country. So just using a normal native token wouldn't make sense. So we need something else, like, for example, what 𝗵cie proposed. But it also doesn't stop there. I mean, there are other things. I mean, there are certain types of real-world assets that actually generate rewards. I mean, if you, for example, look at houses again, like commercial property, maybe there's this block of apartments and it's now tokenized and on the blockchain, but there are actually tenants in the apartment that pay rent. So obviously the holders of the tokens on the blockchain should get part of the rent. So this reward distribution is another aspect. And then governance comes in. If we again look at property, I mean, often if you have share in a property, then you have the right to participate in decisions about this property. I mean, let's say you have like this complex of apartments and then you would like a swimming pool. So somehow the community of owners has to decide, do we build the swimming pool or not? So that's like this government aspect. Once reward assets have been tokenized, would also need to be implemented. So there's, I mean, first the legal thing and certification and so on. And then on the blockchain, how do you actually trade it while complying with regulation? And how do you do things like profit sharing, reward distribution, and so on? And our proposal is basically to do this whole thing, to streamline it as much as possible, so that, I mean, it's still, you have to look at every individual like type of security and jurisdiction. But once you like know, for example, how housing in France works, then like do it as streamlined as possible, that it's relatively easy, maybe not perfect, but relatively easy for a homeowner in France to tokenize his house and eventually get it on the blockchain. So that's basically the proposal.
Lars, I have a question to you, because I love this problem. I love this problem of how do we get assets in an efficient way on chain. And you haven't gone into the details of how exactly this process would work, but I have a question, because that's where I always see the biggest challenge. Okay, let's say it's regulatory, it all works out. Okay, I have a house now tokenized on the blockchain. I now buy it, and I own now this house on the blockchain. Something happens to the real house now, or maybe I not a full house, I own just a fraction. So I have a damage, right? So there needs to be some sort of liability, right? Like, because if I bought that house or a fraction of that house, right, and like, who carries the liability for this house to be in order, right? Like, it could be, like, the person who issues the token needs to make sure you can obtain ownership of that asset, or do you find some other way of abstracting that? I know it's a very, very specific question, but that always seems to be the hardest part of all of it. Even, like, okay, French, I'm not allowed to own an American security or something like that. But like, how do you make it enforceable? Like, or is it then, because otherwise I end up in a situation where, okay, I should have a right, this right cannot be fulfilled, and then I have to go off chain and sue that person? Or is there some sort of mechanism here where I could get the money, the value back if something happens to the real asset? I don't know if my question was clear, but maybe you see the direction where I'm going.
Yes, the question was certainly clear, and obviously I don't have the answer. I mean, part of the proposal is also to like do research about these things. I mean, one obvious answer would be to do some sort of collateral, that if, I mean, part of
Yes.
buying these tokens is that you have to like, or take out an insurance or something, or pay some property managing company that accepts these risks. And but I'm afraid I don't have a good answer to you. It's of course an important question, but as I mentioned before, there are like all sorts of different types of security. So maybe housing is like particularly tough. So maybe we should start with something simpler like gold or diamonds, or and then work our way up to these more complicated things. But I mean, I fully agree that there are lots of questions, but I think probably it's also wrong to just not tackle the problem at all because of all these unknowns. I mean, probably one should get started, and then hopefully over time, I mean, these things will sort themselves out. But yeah, I don't claim to have these answers.
I think it's an incredible, valuable proposal, and I think this is really the topic of this bull run, to get these real-world assets on chain and get them traded and make them as most interoperable with the classical DeFi way that we can. And I think it's more minds, and Lars, you're definitely one of the known minds in Cardano work on this problem. I think it's better it is. And now I just have to plug myself, Lars. If you want to have a tokenomics proposal pitched, I have one on my desk, because I thought a lot about that problem, and definitely collateral in its own token to ensure that. But this is, sorry, completely off rail. But if you want to talk about that, Lars, let's have a conversation.
Okay.
Awesome. I think that'll bring us to time there, Dr. Lars. As always, thank you so much for your knowledge. And I'm sure I'll be probably running into you on my channel for coverage of other Genius Yield proposals here as voting kicks off. Thank you. And we'll move on to the next one here. So, of course, we've got Raul de Benedettis. I want to first and foremost thank you for your patience. We've also got, I want to say it's Steph from the either BigQuery or the Wolfram Alpha team. And they're actually, excuse me, go ahead. Let me take that back. They're actually going to go ahead and close us out. So we are getting to the end here for today's stream. But without any further ado, Raul, welcome aboard, man.
Hey, Fareed, thank you for having me. Hey, Simon, how's it going?
To have you online.
Yeah, I'm good. Excited to talk about Nuvola. I remember when we had our first interview. I mean, it seems like months have gone by, but it's really only been, I want to say, maybe 2-3 months maximum. And you guys have been hitting it off. You guys have been doing amazing.
It's actually been 2 months today since the token went live, I believe, which is crazy.
Yeah, you guys have seen a lot of success.
Yeah, I feel like I've aged about 5 years in the last 60 days. So
welcome
Very
to
normal.
crypto.
Yeah.
All right, let's get serious here. So Nuvola, a DePIN aggregator, right? Making access to DePIN or participation in DePIN that much easier. Raul, do you mind maybe just briefly breaking down what Nuvola is for any new listeners here for today? We'd love to also hear a little bit about your background, but I want to save the majority of the time here to discuss your proposal. So with that said, could you maybe sort of explain what Nuvola is, and again, just break down a little bit of your background?
Yep. So Nuvola at its core is we're a network expansion protocol. Essentially, what we do is we partner with DePIN protocols such as 𝗂𝗓, Minutes Network, 𝗁cie, and others, and we help establish their hardware on a global scale to make sure that they have the reach and the spread to get their network to as many hands as possible, essentially. And also another thing that we do is we are a DePIN aggregator. We manually revenue stream or revenue share all the rewards from our operations back to our NVL holders. Now, by nature, as decentralized as a lot of these DePIN models are, they are very exclusive or centralized in who gets the revenue share from their operations. It all funnels back into the node operators, or those that are essentially contributing to the network. Now, there are some technical difficulties or technical walls that the average crypto user might not be capable of overcoming to help contribute. And this is where Nuvola steps in. Essentially, we run operations globally on behalf of our holders. And then all the rewards and revenues that we make from our partners, we essentially take a portion, 50%, and revenue share it back to our stakers publicly. As far as my background, I was an aerospace, naval, and medical quality engineer for about 13 years. I've dabbled in each industry for about 3 to 4 years each. And I worked essentially quality assurance, global supply chain, and I took my expertise, and I had an extensive background with running those businesses as well. And I took what I learned, and I've been in crypto since 2018. My first transaction on Cardano was actually in February of 2018, and it's been amazing to see how much the ecosystem has grown, and even for myself to be at the point that I'm presenting my first catalyst with my company is quite remarkable. So yeah.
That's a perfect segue. Over to you again to dive into the proposal.
Yeah, so we have in partnership with Ada Anvil, we're creating what's called a collateralization protocol. Essentially, in the DePIN sector, I'll use 𝗂𝗓 as an example. As you run their nodes and their operations, they reward you for contributing to their network. Now, 𝗂𝗓's specific model has a 12-month lock on all the rewards accrued by the node from the day that it goes online to the day that it comes offline, 12 months after the first day, you're going to be able to receive the rewards. Now, this creates a bit of an illiquid setting for a lot of the node operators and even those that are staking to the nodes. So to add an extra layer of liquidity in parallel with Anvil and our partner, we're creating this collateralization protocol where our stakers can essentially, let's say someone has earned 20,000 ADA after 6 months of staking it with us worth of Iagon. They can create a collateralized sort of NFT or a voucher that represents the value of their rewards before they are unlocked. And then we're creating a marketplace where essentially that value can exchange hands between other buyers and sellers. If someone wants to lend or borrow against this essentially locked asset or locked reward. And it also creates a secondary layer of speculation where someone might say, hey, well, I be worth XYZ in the future. So there could be an increased or decreased value added into that loan as far as a discount or an upcharge. This is phase 1 of the collateralization protocol. We are also looking to do this with all staked locked rewards. ISPOs can also be tapped into. I unfortunately don't have Ada Anvil here with me to back me on the technical aspects of that portion of the conversation. But essentially someone that has locked rewards in an ISPO that won't be unlocked for 6 months to 12 months can essentially create this collateralized NFT or voucher and go onto our platform, open market, and sell it for its current value, estimated, or its future value, essentially. So that's phase 1 of the protocol. Phase 2, we are taking the same exact model and replicating it in the real world where there are other settings that there's an illiquid situation, right? So perfect example, let's say Simon plans to go to Italy and he spends $3,000 on his trip with his girlfriend or his wife. And as the trip comes near, he has something come up and he can no longer make the trip. The airline turns around and says, hey, don't worry, you have flight insurance, but here's a credit instead of your cash back. And you have 12 months to take the trip or it expires, which is the case every single time, 12 to 18 months, right? So now Simon says, well, I had something come up. I really need the cash. Our collateralization protocol in the real world setting obviously would be in partnership with these airlines. For this specific example, we could create a secondary market where Simon can go and let's say he knows he's not going to get his full $3,000 refund. He now sells his trip to Italy for $2,000. And a buyer on the secondary market says, hey, man, this is actually at a discount because it's so much closer to the trip. I will buy that for $2,000. The credit is now transferred over to his name. And he can either opt into taking the trip when it comes, or he can upsell it for $2,500. And on each transaction, we're talking 3 transactions now, the airline has made its money, so they're not complaining there. The user got the instant liquidity that he originally didn't have, and now a secondary individual has come in and either benefited on a discounted value or can upsell it and make more money. So essentially, it's an extra layer of markets to create liquidity for what are essentially illiquid assets. This can be done with airlines. This can be done with Airbnb trips or any other markets or places where essentially you're locked or stuck with a credit, which is a bit of not predatory, but it's almost like a controlling aspect of a lot of these industries where they say, hey, thank you for your money, but we can't give you a refund. You could stay with us and spend it only with us. So we can unlock that for a lot of our users. So we'll start on Cardano with our DePIN node operations. That's where it's being currently tested, and we are actually implementing smaller portions of it. And then it will extend further into other staking mechanisms within the Cardano ecosystem, which could potentially tap into even cross-chain. I know cross-chain's huge, so we're all headed that way. And then phase 2 will be into the real world application of it with airlines, travels, and many other elements where there's a locked sense of liquidity there.
I see Simon's wheels are spinning. You're talking about his wife and girlfriend. What you got to say, Simon?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. So I really wasn't aware of the complexity, but it's quite interesting. And I just want to repeat it so that I'm 100% sure that I understand it, because in a way it's very simple, but it's also very abstract. So let's say I'm a node provider, right? I have my rewards are locked. but I've already earned them. And now instead of waiting for my rewards, I can trade the right to the reward and already have a market for it, and I can immediately liquidate it. And it's also very interesting, actually. You see what happens a lot is that like why is IAGO locking these rewards, right? Because they don't want to have the emissions pressure on the main market, right? That's why you lock them. And so that would allow people to have the benefit of it without bringing down the token price of the real thing. All that you need is a counterparty. It's quite interesting. Like it's truly quite interesting. I'm thinking if there's any risk, maybe there might some technical risk, right? Like how do I make sure that I can actually give this reward right? Probably must verify it on the blockchain. You said you don't have the technical person with you, so I don't want to ask a technical question.
So on a base level, from what I've understood with Anvil is the rewards technically are not claimed. They belong to a specific wallet, but they are not claimed as of yet. So when they create this essential NFT, collateralized NFT, or this voucher, and again, the technicalities they know better than I do, they're essentially exchanging the rights, like you mentioned, of those rewards, that when someone has that ticket or that NFT or that voucher, they have the rights to claim and show up to the node on that day and claim those rewards, essentially. So we're working through this as we speak. We're implementing a very premature version of it within our own staking model, where if someone unstakes, they don't lose the reward. They just claim. They have the rights to claim however long they staked for. So if someone stakes for 3 weeks and they have to unstake for whatever the reasons, right? Because at Nuvola, I don't believe in lock periods or confining anyone to anything. Why, they were there, they were loyal for those 3 weeks, for example. Why would I take that away from them if something in life came up? So we're creating a ghost NFT that represents their 3 weeks worth of reward. It gets planted into their wallet and it stays there. And when the rewards are unlocked or claimable, they can trade in that voucher essentially and just claim the rewards for those 3 weeks that they were staked. This is going into its test phase currently with us, and we're looking to really stress test before even the catalyst comes into play. But technically speaking, it's been hashed out with Anvil, and they took on the catalyst because they know that they can actually deliver. And even into the real world application is when it's going to get really fun and really interesting, because now not only do we extract liquidity, we give users the ability to extract their own liquidity early, but we also created a secondary market for a lot of these big players in airlines, travel, Airbnb to make additional funds on money or make additional money on transactions that normally didn't exist before. So it's a tall ask, but we are very confident that we can deliver.
That was the piece that caught my interest, was the second portion about the real world application, because I think we've seen people take a shot at the first implementation, which is all sort of done on chain in the Web3 environment, but then to tie that back over into some sort of real world service, I think offers a huge potential. So I'm not sure if that would potentially qualify, to be submitted within that newer category. But I think as time goes on, if you guys are able to find one particular partner, let's say, a huge reputable airline, to say, hey, we're willing to give this a shot because we see an opportunity, that could scale. And I think that could have a huge impact. So again, I think it's a solid idea. I'd love to see this. And I would definitely take advantage of it, understanding that sometimes you do need liquidity. Sometimes there's a drop happening, there's a sale happening, or whatever the case is, and you just want to free up some liquidity to go ahead and join in on the fund. So closing thoughts.
And just to give you guys an idea of like the scale of it, yearly, there's about 12 million canceled flights on a yearly basis across all the airlines. Now, while 12 million canceled flights might not seem big in the grand scheme, that's actually a lot. If you could consider the fee structure and what essentially we're doing for the average user to give them all this liquidity, but essentially even the airlines coming in and saying, wow, we can take 2-3% fee on every single one of these canceled flights, and all their resales or essentially upcharges, that it extracts so many different layers that I don't see anyone being very resistant, outside of the fact that they might want to have their own in-house product to do this. But if someone like us and Anvil approaches them and say, hey, we already have this entire platform built, It works, it functions. All we need your help with is integrating it into your system so that credits can actually be transferred, which might not be that difficult at the end of the day on their end, right? It just comes down to serializing it. All we have to do is hand it to them on a silver platter and say, here you go. All you have to do is use it and you make money, and that's it. And we handle all the back end. So it's very exciting. I could talk about it for days. I'm not going to take up any more time here, but thank you guys for having me. It's always an honor to share these big ideas with other innovators.
Of course. It's my pleasure, and I look forward to hopefully catching up with you on a separate Dapp Central specific interview. I see 𝗁𝗏 here in the house, huge supporter, always talking about, the NVL token, the NVL team, and when I'm going to have you guys on the channel. So 𝗁𝗏, I've made the ask. The ball is in Raul's court at this time. So Raul, thank you again, man. Look forward to speaking with you.
Yes, I will book a time today. You have my word on that.
Sounds good, man. All righty. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Bye, Simon.
Okay, so I think that brings us to our very last presenters here for today. I think it's Steph, who's representing Wolfram Alpha. We did miss out on the BigQuery team, so hopefully we can get them on a separate chat. But without any further ado, Steph, welcome aboard.
Hey guys, good to be here.
Happy to have you. Yeah, so I'll be honest, I know nothing about Wolfram Blockchain Labs. Do you mind introducing yourself, what you guys do? And I also love to hear a little bit more about your proposal.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm Steph McCurdy. I'm the head of blockchain research. And Wolfram Blockchain Labs is a subsidiary of Wolfram Research. And Wolfram Alpha, one of our other products, is also a subsidiary of Wolfram Research. So a lot of people do know us from Wolfram Alpha and using our tools to help get them through school and lots of difficult math courses. But we have a very good.
I'm so sorry. Okay, now that you mentioned that, I remember everybody using Wolfram Alpha for math tests. Literally, everybody was like, I'm jumping on this website. It does my math for me. Everything is clicking now. I apologize. I just want to say that. So I do take that back. I do know who you are.
It's all good. That's a fairly common response. So I interact with that fairly often, and well, we have a very general set of tools. It's not limited to math and physics, but we also do, at least in our blockchain direction, connect to nodes, connect to blockchains, run the functionality for anybody who is a user of our Mathematica product to essentially pull data from on-chain and then perform those analytics. And essentially our mission is to advance the science of blockchains. And from there, we're obviously needing to explore the possibilities of large language models and how they relate. And that's how the original proposal came up back in Fund 11. I say that as if it was a long time ago, but the original proposal in Fund 11 was to bring in a partner by the name of Grid Republic. The CEO, Matt Bloomberg, and the CTO, Tristan Olive, send their condolences. They couldn't be here today. But essentially they've operated the infrastructure for a distributed computing platform called Charity Engine for quite some time, over a decade, doing millions of simultaneous computations, billion plus hours of compute hours. And the direction of the proposal was, in Fund 11, stand up a demo for which a user could use a web interface, UI, an API, or a notebook in order to run distributed inferences using LLMs, open source LLMs of all kinds from all languages. So Fund 12 builds off of that. This is Grid Republic's proposal coming through in Fund 12. They're completely new to the ecosystem, and unfortunately they couldn't be here today, but that's also part of our mission, is to bring people into the ecosystems and evolve from Web 2 to Web 3.
Simon, any sort of initial thoughts about this particular proposal? I'm actually scanning it right now.
Yeah, There's so many. So this is also why I really wanted to have Steve with us, because it's AI is a buzzword that is being thrown around mightily, and Xerberus, what we do, we build a machine learning model, and we don't like to talk about it because we so quickly get pushed into this AI corner, and we, it's really hard. It's really, really hard to build something like that. And this is why when we saw all of these AI projects coming up, and we knew that Wolfram Alpha was doing something as part with another one, the other person leads it, but of course if Wolfram Alpha is part of it, right, it needs to be decent. And we really felt that we have to give you guys the screen time to talk about it. So intelligence as a service, to come to your proposal, is something that sounds very abstract, but I think if we let's think about explain some of the end applications that could come out of this proposal at one point. Like what is the foundation that we're building here? What can we build on top of that?
Yeah, I would say there's two directions here. One that's more down to earth, and another that is under the moniker of intelligence as a service. Down to earth, we want to make the inference services cheap and available to Cardano users. So the first thing is adding a billing and payment system, ADA-based payments. So this is users who have excess capacity, or potential hardware operators that have excess capacity can make their excess capacity available for use and get paid in ADA. And so therefore, it's just a down-to-earth service that says, if you're not able to run these models on your own infrastructure at home, but also not willing to necessarily pay for a subscription or pay for a large closed source model that runs its own cloud services, that you have an additional option. And so that's kind of like a fairly obvious outlet. Wolfram has been users of Charity Engine for quite some time, which has been essentially volunteer compute hours that Charity Engine provides to users trying to run scientific and medical experiments. Port that over and ask what's the possibility here for users to earn or to pay in ADA to have their queries ran. And so that feels like base level infrastructure. One of the projects that we're doing in Fund 10 is a research project. We have experiments we need to run, and we need to know various things from various models. And so this is essentially an outlet for us to just kind of run those types of queries, not on our own hardware, but in a distributed fashion. Then when we talk about intelligence as a service, Grid Republic really sees this as deepening into kind of the utility layers, as low as electricity and water, that we need to think about intelligence as a utility. And it needs the right ethos to one that aligns with our decentralization and self-sovereignty in the Web3 space to begin in that direction. So this is very much building on top of a prototype from Fund 11, an MVP in this case, and essentially enabling an outlet for a Haskell and Plutus integration, potentially running foreseeing the need to supply smart contracts that need to query for intelligence services to be able to do that in a friendlier way. So the Grid Republic's trying to look at it from that perspective. And so it's really sinking down a few layers, and then that's as just a platform for distribution.
So I just want to go again and have a question, or to make it clear, right? Because one of the reasons why I'm personally such a big fan of this proposal is a lot of these major AI tools, and I guess that all of us are using them by now, ChatGPT and Anthropic and all of them, right? They're proprietary and decentralized, right? And there are good reasons for that, right? Like it's efficient, but the question is, right, if we, it's almost a philosophical question, right? Like, should intelligence be centralized? And it's everybody here believes in decentralization because we're in crypto, The idea to create some sort of decentralized, at least basis on which we could build decentralized AIs with decentralized ownership is incredibly powerful. And I just wanted to, that the community understands that is a real way how we could get there, right? And this has so many implications down the line. Yeah, I really, really hope you get funded. Like, there's a whole bunch of proposals in this call that I really hope that that are funded, but this is definitely one of the absolute top ones. Yeah, go for it.
Thanks, Simon. I just want to make sure that I think sometimes we do throw around distributed and decentralized a little too loosely. And so I just want to reiterate some clarity here, because there's an evolution to this project. The evolution at this point is distributing the queries out to whatever service providers have excess capacity to run or are interested in getting paid for that. So it's still through an infrastructure that is ran by Grid Republic. But how the queries are distributed, how the queries are ran are distributed, but the infrastructure is not decentralized. And that's just important to note, because I don't want to confuse the community at this point that that's what this proposal is. However, the point to continuously to service and deepen into a particular ecosystem does suggest the evolution from distributed to decentralized. And so that's just another caveat that I'd like to add, because it's important that people know what they are voting for, and it is important to know that I think we do too quickly jump to the idea that we must be decentralized from the very get-go. That arises trade-offs that are difficult to overcome in terms of building the thing that people will use immediately in the right way. That's probably going to get debated a little bit, but I just think it's important to make sure that we're building things people will use with the path available to approach it from various ways. Take that for what you will.
No, I think it's 100% right. There's it needs to be practical, and it's a path that we walk, right? And certain things it's just simply impossible, right? And there's a reason why it was the centralized AI models that took off, because it is just the path of least resistance, and it's the commercially very easy monetizable path. But we have to build these infrastructure components, I would call it, and infrastructure components to at one point go somewhere else. And I think that like intelligence is the most powerful thing that there is, right? Period. Right? It is intelligence, right? Maybe energy, but the energy and intelligence, right? That's it, right? And if we want to see a future for, now I'm getting philosophical, right? For mankind, which is desirable,
Please go there.
I would. Yeah, I gotta go there, right? If I imaginable the best outcome possible for mankind, that is one where at least the access to or the access to the control over intelligence is somewhat decentralized, because it has already been, right? We are a swarm of intelligence, right? With many brains and many humans, right? And now when we have like the God AIs that everybody talks about, it would be nice if you could build them, right? Would be nice to end cancer and see math. Like, I'm on it, right? But it would be cool if it would be all of us.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you guys are getting very technical here. I did want to point out something very simple,
Yeah.
not as deep, not to take away from the conversation. And that is, let me see if I can pull this up here. Looks like there's a demo, a distributed inference demo. And as you guys were speaking, I was just typing some prompts in here. This is pretty awesome. So I literally asked it, what kind of prompts do you want me to put into here? And it spit back, some very, very, very lengthy answers here. So I'm not sure exactly how you guys are able to provide this data, but I'm definitely going to be playing with this a little bit more moving forward and comparing it to see how well it responds compared to ChatGPT. I feel like that's sort of like the standard now, but now that there's options here, and looks like there's a bunch of different LLMs. I'm not even sure if I'm using the right word here, or a lot of different types of instruments you can use to give you that response. And so I just picked the first two here. Again, it seemed pretty quick. It took about 15 to 20 seconds. And provided some very, very thorough responses. So I've gone ahead and left the links to that down below. Now, in respect of everybody's time, Steph or Steven, I thank you as well. I want to go ahead and just bring up the remaining guests here that were able to stick around with us following their proposals. And so I want to give everybody an opportunity to either, discuss their proposal. There's obviously a huge bit of the community watching here as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts as well. If you guys have any questions, this would be the time to pose them. And then also, you can just kind of cross-pollinating, right? If there's been anybody listening in the background that wants to ask questions to anybody else, this would be the time to do that here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up everybody else that's spoken and that is still available. So we've got 𝗵cie. Let me go ahead and bring him up now. We've also got Greg from 𝗵𝗁. We've got Dr. Lars Brunjes, and I also see Matteo. So again, everybody here, thank you all so much for taking the time, number one, to present your proposals, but then to be kind enough to hang back and to listen to the proposals as well. So at this point, the floor is open. Simon, unless you've got any questions, I'll be keeping an eye out here on the chat for any questions that come in. There's a few that I do want to go back and sort of touch on here. But again, the floor is open to anybody here as we get ready to wind things down with any sort of last comments, questions, and closing thoughts.
I have one question left that I couldn't ask earlier. Is that a moment to ask it?
Go for it.
The question is to Greg. Can we actually use Cardano DeFi liquidity for the security exchange in Nairobi? So could now like a normal Cardano user like move liquidity over there, or is it really because I know a security exchange is like a toughly regulated field, right? But could that be possible?
So I think the idea behind what we're proposing is to build a pilot solution where we would list a tokenized asset for housing, and to see what the appetite is among institutional investors within Kenya, right? So there's a number of pension funds, these saving kind of organizations. I think that would be our target customer. Of course, we're not building this for one use case and for one opportunity to raise capital. We're building this as a pilot that can be expanded. I think if I'm going to be perfectly honest, I can imagine it's going to be a little bit of crawl, walk around. So I think initially bringing in liquidity from decentralized applications from Cardano, I think some heads might explode in the room, So I think we need to first build them a solution that allows them to raise capital from sources that they know, understand, and trust. But it is a journey, right? And I think one of the things that has been mandated, because the Nairobi Securities Exchange is a quasi-government organization, they have been mandated to find ways to flood in capital into the space. So they're doing this not only because they believe the technology can be improved, but they're doing this as a way to attract more investment into that space. That's their KPIs they need to hit. So of course, if we sit down with them and we say to them, well, look, let's think about how we bring in liquidity from elsewhere, how do we cross-pollinate, etc. That is something they're going to be open to. Frank 𝗵𝗁, the CEO, I follow him on LinkedIn, and he was just in Silicon Valley meeting with projects about metaverses. So he's very, very into the blockchain space, very into the crypto space. He's definitely exploring all avenues. So I think I don't think anything's off the table. But just in the interest of managing expectations, I don't think in the first iteration what you're proposing is realistic for the kind of the first pilot.
Thank you for the honesty there. Simon, unless you have a follow-up, I do want to pivot very quickly. I think this is one that may be targeted to 𝗵𝗁 and potentially Matteo here as well. So this is coming in from the doctor about SIP number 113, that brand new token standard. Can SIP 113 allow commodities and securities to be issued on the blockchain? And I would also maybe love to hear a little bit from Dr. Lars about this, just from a legal standpoint. I know you're obviously not a legal expert, but what are your thoughts surrounding RWAs in sort of how they're also seen as well in terms of commodities and security? So I'll come to you in just a second, Dr. Lars, but over to 𝗵𝗁 and Matteo about SIP number 113.
Yeah, regarding everything that regards legal stuff, law stuff, I'm definitely not indicated. So probably Matteo can speak a bit more about it.
Yes. So the short answer is yes, in the sense that CAP 113 allows the technical part to be implemented, right? But then you have the legal side that must be compliant, and it really depends on the location of the world where you're tokenizing stuff. For example, for finance, we are working in the European area, being BaFin compliant, which is like the CIC of Europe. And there are definitely very clear laws on how you can tokenize and you create a digital copy of the major securities and commodities. And you need to be compliant with that. So the process is not only the technical one that is addressed by CAP 113, but is also the legal process that must follow the laws. And this is why, for example, the parties that they can tokenize assets cannot be anybody. You need to follow a different road depending if you're, for example, a private person or a company that owns some assets. Once you follow the legal part, the technical part is CAP 113. So yes, it can address it, but you also need to be very good at law.
Really, really great answer. Again, trying to pull in here Genius Yield and their RWA proposal. Dr. Lars, what are your thoughts surrounding, because a lot of the times when we're talking about RWAs, people are talking about tokenizing houses, spirits, all these different kinds of things, but there's also the potential to tokenize actual stocks. So what are your thoughts surrounding the tokenization of those types of assets, which are technically securities, but then trying to bring them on chain as well? Not sure if you have any perspective on that.
And first about regarding to the doctor's question, I think Matteo and Michele have said that very well already. So I mean, as a mathematician, I would say CIP 113 is necessary, but not sufficient. So you need this in order to be able to trade the things, but you need a lot more. So just having that CIP is not enough. Regarding tokenizing, for example, stock, I mean, I really am no expert like with legal matters, but I mean, my intuition would be that that might even be easier than houses, because it's sort of, I mean, already there's a lot of online trading of stocks, and it's all very streamlined and digitalized, and there are like clear rules, and you have like automatic trading and trading bots and whatnot. So, I mean, my intuition would be that it's closer to the blockchain world already than something like a house, but I might be totally wrong.
Interesting. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to answer that again. That was just something that's come across my mind. I've heard of other projects or other people looking to tokenize existing stocks and to be able to bring them on chain in order to potentially use them as collateral, etc., which closely ties back to what the Nuvola team is doing with ADA Anvil and what Raul was just mentioning there earlier. Okay, so I think that will do it here for today's live stream. I do want to end off with a question for Xerberus. So Simon, you get the final word here. Again, I want to thank all of the guests for tuning in. All of the links to their proposals have been left in the chat replay. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to all these teams. They are available and reachable either through Twitter or Discord. And I believe the majority of them are also available on Telegram. So this last question is for the Xerberus team, coming in from Matthew Hiltz. What are easy, low-hanging fruits or things that projects can do to get a better risk rating, I assume, on the Xerberus platform?
To design fairer tokens. That's it. Tokens are a vehicle to be used to achieve something, to orchestrate to a problem, right? I always love to take ADA as an example or World Mobile as an example. These tokens are assets which are used to solve a hard problem, right? To, for example, decentralize a network. And they are a vehicle. So you need to do something with them. And what we see a lot is projects minting too many tokens, projects minting tokens without having a good use case for it, projects minting tokens which are more like already existing securities. So it's really, I would really love to see more tokens which are a fair launch. It's the thing, and really use to solve hard problems. And honestly, if anybody in this community has an idea of a token and they want to know what we think about that, you can always jump on a call with us. We think a lot about tokens, and this is also why we love the whole real world stuff. There's so much more that we can build, and yeah, just build more elegant tokens. And yeah, that's it. I think, and make them fair, elegant and fair. Yeah, I know it's abstract, but that's the answer, I think.
Yeah, sometimes the simplest answers are the best answers. That will bring us to the end here for today's live stream. Again, I want to thank everybody here for tuning in from the community. I want to give a huge shout out to the Xerberus team for letting me or for allowing me to host today's live stream. Very informational for myself, hopefully the viewers, as well as the other attendees listening in, to other members who are contributing to the wonderful and thriving Cardano ecosystem. Again, huge shout out to Dr. Lars Brunez representing Genius Yield. Huge shout out to Greg Schneider representing 𝗵𝗂. We've got Steven representing Wolfram. And we've also got 𝗵cie representing Harmonic Labs. We've got voting. I believe the registration for voting for Project Catalyst ends on the 18th. Oh, so it actually may have just ended if I'm not mistaken. But voting begins, if I'm not mistaken, on the 23rd. So if you've already registered, definitely make sure to go ahead and vote with your ADA in order to support all these amazing builders here in the ecosystem. Again, that'll do it here for today's video. Thanks to all of our guests. Thanks to all the viewers. And on that note, we'll see you all in the next one. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.